Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today we'll Masech this Makkot daf Yud Tes. We are going to begin on Yud Chesamid Beis, the last line. Amar Rabba Bar Ada Amar Rav Yitzchak Bikurim, as we continue to Yud Chesamid Aleph, Me'masai Mechayvin Alehen. When are you chayiv? And on this Rashi says, when are you chayiv misa zar ha'oichon? If you have a non-Kohen who eats Bikurim, when is he going to be chayiv misa? On Tosos, on the bottom of the previous psalm, it says, not only by a zar, but also a Kohen can get malchus chutz l'chayma. If he eats bikurim outside of the proper place, shemitzvasa bifnim ba'azara. He's supposed to eat the bikurim bifnim in the azara. So the answer is mishiro pnei habayis. From the time that it actually literally sees the house of the Beis Hamikdash. Come on, ki haytan desan. Rabbi Lezer Omer bikurim miksasim b'chutz miksas mifnim. Let's say some of the bikurim are inside the azar and some of it's outside of it. So shebachutz, anything which is outside, hari hin kechulin l'chol devarayin. It's considered to be like chulin, and therefore a zar is not going to be chai for eating it. Shebefnim hari hin kehektish l'chol devarayin. And within the azara, it's considered to be hektish l'chol divrayim. So Rav Sheshes be fine. So that's basically what we're saying there, which is question 11, as well as TB20. Zar she'oichel bikurim mimosach hamlehin misa mishir pnei abayis. And we said mishich yichnesu la'azara. From the time that it enters into the azara, now it has the din of bikurim that only a kohen is allowed to eat it, and therefore, if at that moment on the zar eats it, he's chayiv. Rav Sheshes bikurim hanachla makaves behen krein makaves behen. So we mentioned before that when part of the procedure of giving the first fruits is there's a declaration of Arami Ovid Avi, and the question is that ma'akev? Is it something which considers that the bikurim wasn't properly done? If this declaration wasn't said. So Kamanki Haitan, the San Rabbi Yossi Omer Shloish Devarim, there was three matters, and this is one of them, and they're all learned in the Sifri, as Rashi quotes, Mishum Shloish Zakanim was said in the name of three elders, namely, so Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Yachal Yal Adam Meiser Sheni Bezman Hazir Shalayim, Yachlenu. A person is allowed to bring Meiser Sheni, which again, typically we take 10% of our produce in years 1, 2, 4, and 5, and we bring it to Yerushalayim, but it's too heavy, then we are put it outside of Yerushalayim onto money. We bring the money and we spend it b'kedushas Meiser Sheni in Yerushalayim. So how about nowadays? So a person is able to take this Meiser Sheni and bring it into Yerushalayim, v'yachlan, and eat it. So what does that mean? It says Rashi, Ksaver kedushas Aretz lo batla. He holds that the kedusha hasn't left. And therefore you have a same chiyuv of separating all the various tithes. And therefore you could redeem it b'lo without redeeming it. But really it's not true. V'dinhu, and I'll prove to you that this should not be the case. Because b'chor to own havas makkot. We know when it comes to b'chor, it needs to have the Beis Hamikdash present. U'maiser sheni to own havas makkot. As well as Meiser Sheni requires Havas Makkot. So Ma B'char Enu El B'fnei Abayis, it's only when the Beis Hamikdash stood, so Av Meiser Enu El B'fnei Abayis. So just like B'char is only then, so Meiser Sheni shouldn't be naig nowadays anyway. So Ma'ul B'char Shechein Toin Matan Damin Bermel Gamim Mizbeach. So 1 second, maybe the reason why a Bechor is not noig b'zman azez without a Beis Hamikdash is because you need a mizbeach to be able to do the zrikas dam and everything else. So about bikurim, in which there's no zrikas damim, it's fruit. So when it comes to rather meiser sheni, which is fruit. So bikurim yachichu, that when it comes to bikurim, there's no matan damim, because that's also fruit, and nonetheless it's only noig bifnei abayis. So too, I would say that when it comes to Meiser Sheni, also is only Bifnei Abayis because it's no different than Bikurim. Yeah, but Mal Bikurim Shechen Tun and Hanacha. When it comes to Bikurim, there's more of a procedure. You actually have to place it down, which clearly shows that Hanacha is Ma'akev Talmud Lermer, that's why the pasuk says v'chalta Hashem lefnei Hashem elkecha v'gaimer machash ma'aser b'lo b'chor ma b'chor inu ela lefnei habayis av ma'aser inu ela lefnei habayis. So the question is, so chayra, we have a sat hashava, right? So, but the point is that we learn out from this pasuk. Says Rashi lefikach ta'un bias, right? So for the Rashi, my shna, we're going to see later on, why by bechor de pshitale meiser miboyle? Why by bechor is it a dover pashit? That's only if they bias, but not meiser. So v'im isa lifrach mal bikurim shechein tunin kriya v'hanacha. The whole point over here is that the raya is that why is bikurim more strict than meiser? Because it needs hanacha. What do you mean? How doesn't it also require kriya? There's also the decoration, the statement of Rami Avi. The fact that we don't mention it is because kriya is not ma'akiv. It must be only the hanacha is ma'akiv and not the kriya. So that's a raya to teach us that. Okay. Question 12. What is the hekesh? Shein meiser noeg el lefnei habayis. Afal pisha kedusha lo bata kebechor. Even though the kedusha hasn't left Yerushalayim, nonetheless it has the same din of a bechor. That just like bechor is only at times of the base of mikdash. So too by meiser sheni. So too by meiser sheni. Okay. Good. So Omer Rav Ashi Nihi. So what is the raya? Oh, because it doesn't say kriya, must be it's not ma'akiv. Yeah, but Nihi granted the ikuva leika mitzvah miika leima mitzvah lifrach. Understand, by kriya, even if you want to tell me, okay, maybe it's not ma'akiv, right? But why doesn't it mention it? That is a procedure that does apply to bikurim, that doesn't apply to meiser sheni. So why wasn't that part of the pircha? El Omer Rav Ashi kivad deika bikuri hager. Because when it comes to a convert, the boil memor, that he has a requirement to say Asher nishma Hashem l'avosecha v'lo matzi yomer l'psikale. So when it comes to a ger, in which it's necessary for him to make a decoration, but the decoration is Asher nishma Hashem l'avosecha, that my forefathers swore. He can't say that, therefore l'psikale, so it's not a set thing, kriya by bikurim. So therefore, because a ger can't possibly say that decoration, that's why we don't mention kriya, because it's not necessarily that it's ma'akev or not ma'akev, but the reason why it's not mentioned is because there are some people that never will say it. That's the idea behind that. Okay, fine. So let's see if there's Rashi over here. Kivan the mitzvah iko nibrach nami kriya l'psikle umiu b'Yisrael feel ikuva iko meimar. Right. So again, this is not a raya that maybe when it comes to kriya that it's not ma'akiv. Maybe taki is ma'akiv for a Yisrael, a born Jew, but someone who converted, who doesn't have the ability to be able to make that declaration, doesn't say it, but it doesn't necessarily prove that kriya is not ma'akiv. Okay, so that's the answer. Lema mitzvah miko. Fine. So again, because there's bikurei ger, diboy ma'ashin nishma Hashem l'osech v'lo amar l'psikle. So v'lehadar din of a taste of a matzad. So says Rashi, lamuli hakesha. Why do you need this pasuk? Nemo b'chor yochiach b'chazor din atzad hashav shebehen shetuunan havas makam v'inu hagan el lefnei habayis, which is what I pointed out before. It sounds like it's a good tzad that we can learn out the dinim of meiser sheni from both bechor and bikurim. So therefore, l'chayra, you don't need a pasuk to tell us that it's only noig lefnei habayis, because we already have a tzad hashava to teach us that. So that's the kasha. So mishum dikol mifrach b'alasad v'shem shechein yesh behen sad mizbeach. The problem is that there's sad mizbeach by both of them. Either when it comes to bechor there's matan damim, or when it comes to bikurim there's hanacha. So since both of them have to do the mizbeach, maybe that's why it's only noig. However, when it comes to meiser sheni, where there's no hanach and there's no matan damim, there's no blood, so maybe in that case it is not even after not shulef nearby. That's why we need a pasuk. So Mike Sover, what exactly does this Tana hold? If you want to tell me that the kedusha doesn't stop the kedusha, even without the Beis Hamikdash, it still continues, and therefore there's an element of kedushas arts that doesn't leave. So the feel b'chor nami, that even when it comes to a b'chor, says Rashi, yirkav, we should say that the b'chor, we shouldn't say it doesn't apply nowadays, but rather we should let it rot, so to speak. V'yoichel, yikrav, excuse me, you can be makriv v'yoichel and eat. Tehom man isle kedusha asadlovo isvirle makrivin alphabish in bias. Interestingly enough, he holds you could be makriv karbanos, like on a bama l'chayra, even without the Beis Hamikdash. So then why can't he just be makriv it, right? So if you hold kitchel, the kittel shakt is also kitchel lavoi, so then the din of bechor should even be noig nowadays. So that's one point. On the other hand, each every kedusha rishon kitchel shakt of a low kitchel lavoi has no kedusha now at all. The field bechor nami tiboy. So then the kash should even be by a bechor, right? So if in fact there is no kedusha, says Rashi, bechor shenizrak damoy. Let's say, for example, the blood was already sprinkled on the mizbeach because there was a Beis Hamikdash, and then immediately after the b'char b'bayis, the Beis Hamikdash got destroyed. The yadayin b'sarn kayim, the meat is still around. Ma'u shechluhu, so you're allowed to eat it or not? So there's no chisaron of matan damim because you did it as much as Beis Hamikdash kayim. The question is now are you allowed to eat it? Now the Beis Hamikdash is not here, so you should have the same question. It should be similar to Meiser Sheni. So if it doesn't have kedusha, so then how come by bechor, again, assuming this interesting academic discussion of that it was, you already were makriv the damim on the mizbeach, and then the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. So according to him, why would you be able to eat this? So maybe it would be a kash if you could eat that. So why is it ever pasha that you can't? Again, we're talking about a case where the Beis Hamikdash was not destroyed until after the blood was sprinkled. The char b'bayis v'dayin b'sar kayim, which is as you saw in Rashi. But we have to make a hekesh the basar to the dam, even though the dam is still kayim. So ma dam b'mizbeach abasar b'mizbeach. That's necessary, just like the dam needs the mizbeach, which it did receive. Now the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. When you eat the basar, you also need to have the Beis Hamikdash extant. It has to still be there. So therefore that's the din. That since we are makish the dinim of dam to the basar, so therefore even in this interesting academic discussion, nonetheless you would not be able to eat the meat, and so too when it comes to meiser. Understand. How could you take something which was learned out from a hekesh, which is learned out from dam, then we're going to go and learn it to Meiser Sheni, to make a hekesh to that. It says Rashi, Shein Lomedin b'Kedoshim Lamad min Alamad. Well, at least when it comes to the dinim of Kodshim, we're much more strict when it comes to our deductions and our limud, that you cannot learn out from the dinim of Kodshim from one hekesh to another hekesh. That far we're not going to go. However, by Chulin we would. It says Rashi, Chulin hu v'Chulin Lamad min Alamad. So the answers, that's exactly the case. We're not talking about Kodshim. Meiser Dagon Chulunhu. Here, we're talking about Meiser Dagon, which has the status of Chulin, and therefore you can learn one from the other. Okay. Tanichla madi yamer basel lamadas linan, el madi yamer basel lamadas linan ma'ikam emar. So dam v'basar chadamil sehi. The answer portion is it's really like linked as one thing. Okay. All right. Before we go further, let's see. Okay. So we already did TB 20. Zar ha'ich bikurim mimasei chayav alehen misa mishuro penei abayis. TB 21. V'yachaltu lefnei Elokecha ma'aseh gancha v'makaros v'les ma nilman mehekish hamitzvah davka mizman shebeis hamikdash kayim lefnei Hashem v'lo achshav. This is not the same question over here. Question 12. Shein ma'aser noigel b'pnei abayis alphabish kedusha lo batel kebachor. Okay. Similar idea. All right, let's keep on going. So Kadshi Kadashim V'chul. So our Mishnah. Let's go back to our Mishnah on Yud Zayin. So a person who eats, we already did Bikurim before you made a decoration on them. So again, you can get Malchus. And then we have Kadshi Kadashim Chutz L'Kalayim. So if you ate the Kadshi Kadashim, even a Kayin, outside of the curtain area around the Chutzner, it has to be, because it's Kadshi Kadshim, it has to be in like a Chatas and Asham, has to be in within the Kilayim. Kadashim Kalim and Meiser Sheni have to be eaten within the wall, right? Within the Chayma. So let's see this next piece. So Kadshi Kadashim V'chul. So Tanina Chada Zimna. L'chayr, we already learned this. Meiser Sheni V'hektish Shul Niftu. We already learned that you can get Malchus for eating Meiser Sheni that wasn't redeemed. So why does it say it again? So Amar Rabbi Yosi Rav Chanina Seifa b'Meiser Sheni Tahar v'Gaver Tahar. The Seifa, we're talking about a case where the Meiser Sheni is Tahar, and the person is also Tahar. The only problem is that he ate it outside of the walls of Yerushalayim, that he gets Malchus. Reisha, but Meiser Sheni Tameh v'Gaver Tameh, the Meiser Sheni and the person are Tameh, K'achal Yerushalayim. Even though he ate it in Yerushalayim without redeeming it, so therefore that is why you're chayiv. How do we know you're chayiv also in that case? The pasuk says, "Well, that we make this declaration that I did not eat it in the status of being tameh." Now it's bein shani tameh v'hu tahar, bein shani tahar v'hu tameh. It doesn't matter if I'm the one that's tameh or the food is tameh. Either way, this declaration regarding Meiser Sheni is that either way, you're declaring that you didn't do it that way. So the Heichan Musar al Achila, where is there a warning against eating while you're tameh and it's tameh in Yerushalayim? So Eni Yodeya Tumas. So I don't know, but Tumas Aguf Behed Yiksiv. When it comes to being tameh yourself, that's explicit. Nefesh asher, the pasuk says, Nefesh asher tigabai, a nefesh who touches it, v'tama, and the person becomes tameh, ada erev. The pasuk clearly has a lav that if you're tameh, you can't eat something which is of sanctity, and therefore that's obviously coming to would also be coming to in Meiser Sheni. So if you ate Meiser Sheni while you are tameh in Yerushalayim, you're of a lav. Tumas atzma minayin. How do we know if the Meiser itself is tameh? You can't eat it in your gates. What is the link? And let's say you have a tameh and tar person, they're eating from the same bowl, and we're not concerned. And the Torah says, so over there, the tameh person is allowed to eat this, but over here, lo techel, here you may not do so. So what is this referring to? So let's look in Rashi. So Rabbeinu gufo tahar v'yatzin nishmasa b'tahara will appear. Listen to this parentheses over here. Rabbeinu gufo tahar v'yatzin nishmasa b'tahara will appear she'yisir mikan ve'elach loshen talmidu Rabbi Yehuda b'Rab Nosson. So it's interesting. This is no longer Rashi, but it's Rabbi Yehuda b'Rab Nosson from this point forward in this sugya, in this Masechta. So Rashi says, when it comes to an animal which has a blemish, in your gates you shall eat it, because there's a blemish. If you'll tell me Batar, says Rashi, or says, Rabbi Yehuda b'Rab Nosson, even though you're not allowed to shear it or do work with it, it says Avas nafshacha tizbach v'yachalta basa tizbach v'giz v'yachalta v'kolvecha baser v'cholav v'fil hachi tamatar oichlano so b'kaira. Nonetheless, when it comes to this, we allow tamei and a person to eat it together. But tumas aguf, even though the guy is tamei, but tumas atzmai, as well as if it is tamei, kivad the tamei oichel behen hainu b'tumas aguf oichel hatahar. Ikashiyitar oichel imoy. Li'achashenagabo hainu tahar oichel tumas atzmo shecheles atame. Okay. Fine. So now the Gemara asks, Umanolan Devar Pridiyahu. How do we know that Meiser Sheni became Tame, even in your Shalayim it's shaykh that you can be poided? Because you weren't supposed to eat it, you're supposed to have been poided first. How do we know that when it comes to Meiser Sheni, which is Tame, you can be poided in your Shalayim? Again, when it's Meiser Sheni outside of your Shalayim, you can be poided. It's part of its Tahar. If it's Tame, it can even be poided in your Shalayim because the Yemar Abelazim and I know Meiser Sheni should poided us if ever Shalayim. Talmud Kilo Suchel Seisoi. That literally you're not able to carry it. Now, the Ein Seis El Chil means you can't eat it. Why can't you eat it? Because it's Tame. Shenem Rabbi Yisam Asis Aspanov. That he lifted up the meals from before him. So therefore, this pasuk is being maramez that the word masais is food or meals, and therefore, even though you're in Yerushalayim, but you're not able to eat it because it's tameh. Fine. So therefore, you can be poided. Fine. Amar Bibi Amar Abasi Menayin L'Maiser Sheni Tahar Shepoided Afilu B'Psi Achas Chutz L'Chayma. Now, you can be pointed only outside of your Yerushalayim. What if your mom is just one step away? Doesn't matter. Even if you're just a tiny little step away, you can still be pointed. Shnemar, so that you don't want to carry it. Therefore, that pasuk tells you that you even right outside the wall. What do you mean? I thought we just used the same pasuk to tell you that you can be pointed Meiser Sheni Tami in your Yerushalayim. So why do we need this pasuk? Now we have the same pasuk telling us that you can be poida Meiser Sheni Tahar right outside of the walls. Imkein lemekrel usuchel echoy mas esoi. Says Eso is coming to tell you the second drasha that even though you're in your Yerushalayim, you can be poida because you can't eat it. So ve'emakul hakudasa. Maybe it's just coming to tell you to be poida inside your Yerushalayim if it's tameh, and that's it. So imkein lemekrel usuchel. Litla, you can't carry it. My eso shemam atarti. Okay, so you can learn out both things from the pasuk. Yosef Rab Chanina Rab Oishia become a boil who a pisker Yerushalayim. So he was actually asked this question as he was by the entrance of Yerushalayim. Mahu, what is the din? Pshitahu b'chutz. Pshita. The following case is simple. Hu b'chutz. If you are outside of the wall, umasoi bifnim, but the bundle of meiser is inside. So we say katluhu mechitzais. Then the walls absorb the grain. In other words, you can't be poida anymore because it's in it. Even though you're outside of the walls, but the item that you want to be poida is inside the walls. Hu bifnim umasa b'chutz ma'al. The kasha is the other way around. What if your bundle is outside? Can you be poida? Well, why not? It's outside because what if you're in your Yerushalayim? So Tanu Hu Saba but Rabbi Shimon ben Yoicha, the pasuk says Ki yirchak mimcha, that it's far from you. Hamakoim mimilascha, from your fullness. So what does that mean? Says Rashi, Avokishiata bifnim, if you're inside, masecha bifnim lo racha kamakom, avishuv lo tifda el v'yachalta sham. So it's coming. The drasha is to tell you no, even if your bundle is outside, but since you're inside, then you can no longer say it's fully far away. Fully far away means that both you and your bundle are far away. Rav Papa, naked le bekanyamai teku. What if you're holding on like a person who is a person running away? From walking away, and you have a stick, and you have this big kerchief dangling behind you. So you're walking with it. So is that considered to be part of you, or is it not part of you? Is it inside? Is it not inside? What's the whole kasha? So Rashi says, "Humim bifnim." You're inside, but the bundle is outside. So I thought we just said before that the fact that you're inside, you can only be pointed. So Rashi explains, Kivan delav mamish al kseifahu. It's not really on your shoulders. Enzem maloi. V'ahayu kemutul aretz. It's like it's on the ground. V'niften, you could be pointed. Oh, dilma kivan de naked le masoi karin be v'chenir be'enai rebi be'ikr. Okay. Rav Asi, Rav Yochanan, Meiser Sheni Memasach Chayav Olav. So when is a person going to be chayev malchus for consuming it? So mishuro pnei chayma. If let's say once it's entered the chayma, Rashi says v'chutz l'chayma the masnisan hainu de'ali of afke. You brought it in and then you took it back out. So once it was brought in and then you took the meiser sheni back outside of the walls, then you're chayev. Then the person is chayev malchus. My time, the Amrikol, if Neisham Kecha Tochlenu Shana Mashana Miksiv, Kilo Sucha Lecha B'Sharecha. So Kol Hecha the Krinin Bay, if Neisham Kecha Tochlenu. Anytime it says you can eat it inside, Krinin Bay Lo Sucha Lecha B'Sharecha, that you're not allowed to eat it in your own gates. The whole Hecha the Lo Krinin Bay, if Neisham Kecha Tochlenu, Lo Krinin Bay Lo Sucha Lecha B'Sharecha. So basically, what it's coming to tell you is that the whole Isser is dafka once it already went in, and then once it went in, and then you brought it back out. That's where the Isser Lav will be. Okay, we're going to stop there. Maybe let's see another question. Be'elu fan the Myra Tanda the Shana Pa'amim Chai Malchus Bechilas Meiser Sheni Shaloi Kedinoi. So, as we saw, the Reisha is Meiser Sheni is Tameh, or the person is Tameh, and he ate it in Yerushalayim without being poided. The Seifa is Meiser Sheni, which is Tahar, and the person is Tahar, but he ate it outside of the Chayma. That's why there's two separate situations. TA 20. Ha'echel Meiser Sheni Chutz Yerushalayim, Matai Enu Loika, when would he not get Malchus if he ate it outside of Yerushalayim? Ume'eza Pasik Elfin. So this is what we just saw. 20. It's totally on him, on the Meiser Sheni, Taka going inside first. It had to have first gone inside, and then you brought it back out. Then you're going to be chayiv. Why? Because as we saw, it says which when it's inside you can eat it, and then when you're allowed to eat it, that's when we say you can't eat it in your gates. So first you have to click in the point of when you are allowed to eat it, which is because it has already seen the Pnei Habayis, right? So therefore, that's what it says over here. Has actually gone to inside the walls. Again, because as the pasuk says, and it said, so anytime that we read that you're allowed to eat it because it went inside, so right, since it went inside, so now that you brought it back out, right, which Rashi says here, the aile va'afke, right, that you brought it in, then you took it out. That's why it says however, if you're not able to eat it, even though you're outside, but you're obviously not allowed to eat it there, but there's no prohibition of you not being able to eat outside of your gates, because first it has to have the pasuk of Lefnei Hashem Elokecha Toichlenu, and therefore it's only Mishur Pnei Habayis, and then you brought it back outside, only then will you be chayiv. Ad kan.